Welcome to Becky's House of Sewing. It's every week now. I'm not promising every week, but I think I'm gonna have enough in the next few months, even though it's the holidays, to go to every week. I did not ask Ron if he was available today, so Ron, you're on for next week. Okay, be ready. I have stuff that I had to take notes. So get ready, people. So let's first, I only have 2 whips to talk about. So I made that EPP bag that I showed last week, and I have since been obsessed. So let me show you here. I've got I did a lot of prep work, which I'm not going to show you, and then I made at least 2 to 3 more of my squares, or my, I guess my squares, if you want to call them. They're hexies, of my hexies. Look how cute they are. So these are all 5 that I have. Only 100 more to go. I bought so when I bought this from Tales of Cloth from Australia, highly recommend. Although I will say I'm not sure yet on the papers. So let me do some more and I'll explain myself. So I bought the papers and the templates. I'd signed up for their newsletter. And they had moved locations, so their templates weren't back up and running because their laser cutter hadn't been up yet. They hadn't gotten that squared away, as it were. So when it came out, I really liked several of their patterns. I wanted to do, my eyes were set on the Eden pattern. And, but the nutmeg, which is what this is, nutmeg, came up as a sale price, and it was really inexpensive. So I got the papers and the acrylic templates to help fussy cut some things if I wanted to. And it was like maybe $60, and that was with, I rushed the shipping because I was like, I can afford to, so I did. Like, why would I wait if I didn't have to? Duh. But it didn't come with a pattern. Now, obviously, it's kind of understandable how to put it together. But I didn't know like how many pieces it made, kind of deal. So I went ahead and did a little more digging because I couldn't find the pattern by itself. And what Tales of Cloth did is they took like 8 or 9 hexy patterns, EPP patterns, and made one book out of them. So it's a digital book, and it's $18, and I recently bought that, which I didn't add into my haul, so I'm talking about it now. Because I didn't print it up, I just have it digitally, so I can't really show it to you. So I'm happy I got that, so now I know how many I have to make. 105. It's a long-term project, people. I'm not trying to get it done, but aren't they adorable? So I've had some revelations. I'm using white. I wanted kind of the points of the stars to be solids, and then the centers and the diamonds to be, what is that, scrappy? But obviously I'm doing like all one in each hexie. Excuse me. Try not to sneeze. Sneezing on camera is not good. Not a pretty sneezer. I am pretty though. So what was I saying? I was saying something about these hexies and doing scrappy. Oh, these white stars. So I've come to the conclusion in trying to prep other hexies that I wanted a more solid white. So, and I wanted a third color because, you know, things in threes work well. So it's going to do navy blue, white, and gray. And again, I thought that this printed white would be fine. And from back here, I'm sure it would be. And that's where people are going to see a quilt. But this is a long-term project. If my hexasus fell. So, and I'm close as I'm stitching them. So I want to enjoy them as I'm stitching them. So each one should bring me joy. Doesn't mean that I won't have an ugly block or two, because every quilt needs one or two. But I want to enjoy it. So I went ahead, and even this one, this navy blue has a pattern to it, but it's less obtrusive to, it reads more solid than the other white ones do. So I went to Stash and I got some fabric when the ladies, we had a little meetup. I don't remember. Seriously, the last 2 weeks have been such a blur. Like, I don't know when what thing happened. But one Sunday we got all together, the North Carolina contingent of the Wednesday stitching group, plus Mary Lou, who is my auntie. She was visiting her brother in Boone, my dad. So she was in town, so we made a deal. We were going to meet, here's funny. We were going to meet at Lake Norman State Park. That's what I was going to say. And that's kind of halfway for my parents and I to meet. If we both left at the same time, we'd get there within 5 to 10 minutes of each other. And we often meet there just to kind of not have to, either one of us have to drive as far kind of deal. But one of the stitchers, Jody, mentioned that she had gotten some Sashiko thread at Stash the other day, and my mom's like, well, instead of going to the park, why don't we go shopping? So we ended up meeting at Park Road Shopping Center, going to Black Hawk Hardware, eating at Velvet Taco, and then jumping across the street to Stash. And I was on the prowl for some yellow fabric that I wanted to make a project bag out of, which I will show you later. And then some gray fabric to be the third of the points. So I'm going to do white, navy blue, and gray. So I picked something and I don't like it. It's too dark. So I need something a little kind of like a light to medium gray. So what I have on the way is 2 mini jelly rolls of, or I think they call them junior rolls, of basic white and like a lighter gray. And we'll see how that works for the rest of the points. I certainly have enough navy blue. And if it makes sense to have one of the whites that has the print to it, like I don't mind it in some of them, but the ones I was trying to match up, it just wasn't jiving well with me. Like this looks kind of cool, I think. And this looks good. But I just wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling it, people. And if I'm going to spend over 2 hours on each of these little guys, I'm going to enjoy it. Do you hear me? I'm going to love it. Look how cute that is. I keep holding it back upside down. I really like this one. I got this fabric too at Stash, and I look forward to it. I think I'll make some diamonds out of it for a different block. But isn't that cute? I just love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So I'm excited. I have my big, the Container Store where I work. Call me. I'll help you with your organizational things. Now sells reusable bags, and Container Store blue is very similar to IKEA blue. So they carry these new bags, reusable bags that are squared off. And the 21-gallon bag is very similar in size to the old IKEA jumbo bag. Highly recommend it because it stands up better on its own. So I have a big bag out in the living room because it's Becky's house of sewing. I can take up all the space. It's contained, so I don't have to look at it if I don't want to. But it has all the fabrics that I kind of want, and every now and then I'll see a fabric in my stash, and I'm like, I want that in the EPP quilt. So I grab it and toss it in there, and hopefully it'll make it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm cool with that. So I've been working on that. I did some of that at, I joined the Stitch group in Rock Hill. So I was able to do a little EPP there. But that morning, which was Sunday morning, I was enjoying a little Flosstube, and I ended up watching Jacob. And I was reminded that November is Black Sampler September, November. I don't know how to say it. Hashtag Black Sampler November, I believe is the hashtag. And I have long been entranced with doing a solid color sampler of some sort, and I do love the Quaker samplers. So I bought something. I know this is it's a little bit of haul, but I got Jacob's Modern Folk Embroidery M. Bell 1856. Now this is a black and white photo, but it's a black and white thing, so it's okay. But isn't it pretty? There's so much about this that I love. I love the bold alphabet. I love the cursive alphabet. I love the birds. I love the Quakers. Ron, this is a Quaker sampler. This part of it here. These are Quaker motifs. Very common with the religious group, the Quakers, to do motifs that are like only half and looking like they will turn the corner kind of deal. So I really like this, and it's not ginormous. Bonus. So Jacob had done it in our Leo and Roxy floss, of course, because he does a lot of partnership with Leo and Roxy, and I'm sure they're a lovely, lovely floss. But I wanted to start it now. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, you have other things going on. You've got like 4 cross-stitch projects. Why wouldn't you want to start another one? So I was thinking, you know what? This is small enough. I probably have some fabric in my stash, and I did. And I was like, what do I have black? And then I remembered, duh, when you did Token of Fall, you did the anchor black for all the letters and numbers. Right here, people. So I fished that out. I measured my fabric, and this since Sunday is what I've done, since Sunday evening. Sure, I might have stayed up a couple of nights way too late doing this, but so I thought today, during Wednesday stitching, I would be able to go across the bottom here. So I had gotten to about the G, so I went from H all the way to O, and then I'd be able to start the second border and know where to start. The charts aren't lined up that way. So Jacob did all the alphabet side as like one chart, and then the Quaker as one chart. So this is why you see one of the last things I did. One of the last things I did at stitching is I use some red, not embroidered floss, I think it's Metler that I use in my sewing machine, and it's probably 50 weight, just to kind of give me a marker on where the border will end, so I could start the border, because I really want to do a Quaker motif. So I need to work on the border and such like that. So what is this? I've already told you the thread. I'm using Anchor. From the math I did, and I stutter because not my best skill, although all my hobbies require it. Oops. So the amount of skeins of thread that is needed for both sides, because I like to do it just like the picture, is a little over 30 meters, and what's on this tiny spool is 30 meters, and now I'd already used a little bit of it on Token of Fall over yonder, over the shoulder, so I may need to buy one more of these, but I thought that was a pretty good deal instead of buying, what was it, like 5 for one and 3 for the other skeins of 8-meter thread, which would be DMC or another floss. Like Jacob used Leo Roxy, and it was obviously they're hand dyed, and it was a variegated thread, so there's a few little gray spots which make it look really aged and pretty. I just loved how I started this out, and I loved how it looked. Okay, let me tell you details. I'm sorry. I'm getting so focused because I keep holding it up and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty, I love you. Okay, so this is Seraphim caramel fabric, and it reads a little pinky, and I think up in this corner you can see a little variegation, and this is fairly true to color right about here, a little pink. I was a little uncertain because it is kind of pink, but I was like, how bad could it be with the black? And I wasn't sure about the anchor because I kind of liked it and I kind of didn't. I've got a little change of mind. So over here you'll see I started, so a couple things. I started 1/1, 1/2. And Ron should know what that means by now. It's 1 thread of floss over 2 strands of linen. And that does not look bad from the camera, but you can see in the border, the coverage is a little leaner. And I really wanted it, like I just feel like that text is so bold. And then, once I got the A mostly done, I realized, oh, Becky, you're doing it on the wrong side of the fabric. If you see this, it should be this way, not this way. Because I'm doing both of them side by side, just like the picture. See, people? So, you can kind of see here, if I hold them both up, just how much thicker these look. And if I get closer, you can see the that H just jumps right out at you. Boom! Just kidding. So I'm loving, I ended up going 2/2 on 36 count Seraphim caramel with Anchor black thread, which I think is officially 0403 or 4736. I put it on this spool because I had, when I was doing Token of Fall, the rest of them were like DMC floss, but I had, I had that silk too, and that was already on like a floss drop type thing. So I was like, I wanted it on my ring. I didn't know how to do it. So I didn't love Anchor at first. I didn't. I felt like it was it was like fuzzy, or it didn't feel right. But I will tell you that I think it was just because it's on a spool and it was the first kind of round, so to speak. The more I use it, the better I like it. And I usually use Jean Farish's technique of straightening my thread instead of using a thread conditioner to kind of keep it from tangling, because as you're stitching, you're twisting your needle and etc., etc. So sometimes you can get knots and whatnot. So Jean Farish, who typically uses DMC or color fast threads, cotton threads, will take a damp sponge and run her thread through that and then thread her needle and begin stitching. And what that does is it just makes it straight from the get-go. This has, as it comes off a spool, it has a natural little like curl to it, but I have not had a big issue of it not feeling as straight. And I know that sounds weird because when you're coming off a skein, I don't know what the difference is, but I haven't really done that, and I might experiment as I go on. But I remember as I did Token of Fall, this wasn't as color fast as the other colors I was using for Token of Fall. So, and it wasn't that it was getting on my fabric, but I noticed like my sponge was getting a little blackish, as it were. So I haven't done that technique, but I haven't had too many issues. And I've counted fairly decently. Not 100%, but decently. So again, that's my progress, and I'm in love with it. I will continue to stitch it because I love it. I might stitch it even after this. Who knows? Alright, the other exciting news is that I am part of the Charlotte Quilters Guild, and we have decided that we are having our first show since the pandemic. Hey, quilt show, quilt show! So it will be right on your calendars. Get your calendars out, Ron. March 3rd and 4th of 2023. The Charlotte Quilters Guild will have their show in Union County Agricultural Center, I think it is. Kind of ironic that the Charlotte Guild is meeting in Monroe for their show, but you know, that's the money talking. So I have decided that I want to do 2 things in the show, and I have a lot of like half-done projects. Oh look, there's one now. Who knew? So I am going to get this quilt done, and it's a little small quilt. Isn't it fun? Look, it's my favorite pattern, Rifle Paper Company. Ah! So I did the quilt top when my mom got the AccuCutter. She got a block set of dies of 6-inch squares. And so I wanted to play with it and see what I thought. And so I had gotten the solid fat quarters for Christmas one year, and I had bought a couple, like a yard or so of the Rifle Paper Company, because I love it so much. So then I just kind of played around with it, and this is the size it came up with. I'd like to kind of throw it on a chair or my couch or something like that when it's done. So I figured out that I'm gonna do a border. I want to do a border on it, and then I've figured out what material I want to use on the back, which is also the same pattern, but I had some leftover material from when I made my cutting table. So it's a canvas, but it'll still work for, especially for what I'm using it for. And it's small. But I'm going to use the binding in this black and the tan. And I haven't 100%, I keep going back and forth. I keep changing my mind on what I want to use as a border, what I want to use as a binding, and then I'm going to do a pieced back with that because I don't quite have enough. This is just 36 inches, so I want, when you're quilting, the fabric kind of shrinks up, so you want a little more backing and a little more batting. So I'm going to need to piece the back, which is fine because that's not going to be bad. And then the second one, excuse me, I have to lean down. I want to get my denim quilt done. Now I have several months to get this done, so I think I can do that. So this piece top is all complete, and it's small, so I should be able to figure out the borders and get it sandwiched and get this completed fairly quickly. And then I want to have my denim quilt in the show. So I'm in the middle of embroidery, so that's what's going to take the longest. And then once I get that done, I should be able to do a fairly...
I found this on the web.
Ooh, excuse me. Siri is talking to me. She found something on the web and needed to interrupt and tell me. So I need to get going on this in order to get this completed. So that is my goal. I think I'll focus on those two quilts, and because I have a deadline of sorts, I might be able to stay focused. We'll see. I make no promises. If I don't get any quilts in the show, it will be okay. But I would like to participate because it's just darn fun. And, you know, I'm a guild member. It's my responsibility. It's my duty to have something in the show. All right. Now's the time to confess that I have a problem. If you haven't figured out with the enormous amount of starts that I have started, the enormous amount of ping-ponging I've been doing between projects, I have a shopping problem. Oh, and I forgot the needles, but I'm just going to start. These are things that I have purchased that have arrived since my last Flosstube. So every time I'm at Stash, these called to me. I'm not familiar with this name brand, so I haven't gotten it every time. But look how pretty they are. Just look. So I got them. When we were there on Sunday, I got them. And I got some more Flosstube needles. They're tulip needles, so I'm anxious to try those out. I also got, and I mentioned this in my last week, but I got this. I'm very excited about this. It is that book that was republished by the Featherweight Doctor. This is David McCullen, which is the Featherweight Doctor's mentor. He has since passed away, but she reproduces this spiral bound book. So many things about this. Spiral bound. It's a joy. Lay it flat, you can really look at it. But these have, I don't think I'm going to give anything away by showing this, but look how big those drawings are. So you really, if you have a troubleshooting guide, or it really helps you dig into how to keep your machine in tip-top shape. So this came in the mail, and I'm very excited about it. I'm here for it. My mother-in-law and my mother have both had heart procedure issues or testing and things like that. on last week, but my mother-in-law actually went to the ICU for a little bit. So so maybe it has been 2 weeks. I don't remember. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. But Ron, we're on for next week. Clear your schedule. Text me. Let me know when you're free. So we were at the ICU, and we were about to leave for the evening because she was well taken care of and doing all right. And so the hospital happens to be next to the quilt patch, which is the quilt store closest to me. So you have to go, right? So I got some things that are more for holidays, so those of you who are worthy enough to receive them will know. But I got some fabrics too. So I thought these 2 pieces would be real cute for project bags. Aren't they adorbs? And then I have this dream to do a brown pinwheel quilt with a bright turquoise pattern on the back. And I am inspired by You've Got Mail. It is the quilt on Meg Ryan's bed when she is sick. And being a quilter, you're always going, oh, there's a quilt, there's a quilt, there's a quilt. This quilt is really cute. So the pinwheels are on point, and there's a flash of the back of it, and it's like a peacock feather print. So I haven't found the back yet, but I've been collecting brown and cream fabrics. That's the word. And so I'm just, every now and then I see, because I'm really good at collecting the darker ones, but I feel like I'm not sure exactly what blenders I'll need, so getting some different mixes in there. I'm excited. One day I'll make that quilt. I was watching a YouTube, and I don't even remember the channel, but she made a Monica quilt from Friends. There was a red-black quilt on the couch at one point in Friends, and she was inspired to make one. And it was a fun story. I'm sorry I don't remember her name or anything. While I was prepping for my EPP stuff, I had bought a Sue Daily turntable. It's a self-healing mat. I don't love it. This is really not very self-healing. I'm used to the self-healing having a little cushion to it. And I feel like this actually slips a lot. So, anybody want this? I'm happy to help you with that. It's not a bad thing. I'm sure I'm using it wrong, but it's not my favorite. So, I bought a different one. So this, I really wanted the OmniGrid one, but I also didn't want to spend $50 on it. So this one was far less expensive on Amazon. The self-healing mat is good, and it's kind of foamy bottom, so it doesn't it doesn't slide around as much. I may still need to figure something out. I might need to I have that grippy spray, so I may spray it on the bottom of this just to help it out a little bit too. But I like the little notches to help turn it around a little bit too. So I got the small 8-inch size, so I can work on hexies and fussy cut in a safer way than what I was doing before. And possibly neater. Alright, so the two finished objects I have, one is not here because I've already given it to Pat, my mother-in-law. She requested a drawstring bag to hold Rummy Cube tiles. She likes to play Rummy Cube, and I appreciate that. I like to play Rummy Cube too. But the bag that it came with it's kind of flimsy and not big enough to get your hand in. So I made a new one. Now, when I learned to sew, I was making drawstring bags like there's no tomorrow. And I could not remember the best technique for it to make the channel. So I used the old YouTube and whipped it right up, and it turned out really cute. The other thing I made was another project bag. So I had Liberty from London, and as I was making EPP stuff, I pulled this pattern out, and I literally draped it over myself like this and watched TV and petted it for a little bit. I was like, I might not be able to cut this up and use it in a quilt in a small way. I think I might need to make a project bag so I can just always look at it. So I didn't have a favorite inner lining, and I was recalling that I made, again, my rifled paper canvas material I used for a project bag. The first time I was going to the Rock Hill Stitch group, because I needed to make sure I had this thing so they knew I was a serious stitcher, and I could, I know my stuff. I made bags. So that had a yellow pattern in it. I really liked it. So I was like, well, that would be great for this, but I don't really have one that's great for it. So I picked this out. It's also Liberty of London. These are both Riley Blake licensed things. So it's cotton. It's not the Tanalon material. It's cotton, quilting cotton. But don't you love that? Mike helped me pick out the zipper. And I bought these zippers on Amazon. I have a bunch of them. I went zipper crazy for a little bit, and I have a lot of zippers. I need to make some bags. Anybody want a bag? Let me know. Call me. So I have a little pink, a little blue, a little yellow, and I love it. Clear bag. Do you like how I quilted it? So what I discovered is that like the inside especially needed some support. So I have been using the stabilizer by Annie. I think it's Soft and Stable. That's more of a thicker foam. And I quilted the back to it, but I did not quilt this to it. I just quilted one side, the inner portion of it. And that helps the inside not be as loose, is I guess the term I'm looking for, and gives it some interest. And I used a variegated silky thread in my sewing machine, and I just love it. It's adorable. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with two things. Two things that I love. Two podcasts that I love very much. One is on Twitch, which is, I've talked about this before, the Quilt Nerd by Mary Fons. Mary Fons does a lot of live streaming now on Twitch. She also then replays things on YouTube, so feel free to catch her on YouTube. There's something about it that I really enjoy. And I just enjoy people nerding out on things. And quilts and things with thread, kind of my jam. So, double pink, I got this shirt from there to help support. Has Quilt Nerd in the back. Got a couple magnets and stickers too. I will be getting more merch because I love it. But Mary Fons, as you may or may not be aware, is the daughter of Mary Ann Fons, who she and her partner Um, yeah, Mary Ann Fonz and Porter. Mary Ann Fonz's partner, also, they worked together at the bicentennial and really kind of helped revive quilting. And that's like when the rotary cutter came out, and all kinds of cool tech came out for quilters. And we had another big resurgence, and really haven't stopped since, I don't think. So Quilt Nerd is a program where Mary Fonz, who does a lot of lecturing now, she did a little stint of editing for Quilt Folk magazine, had her own PBS show, is fairly controversial in the quilting community. Either you love her or you disagree with her, whatever. I have come to discover that I really dislike passionate people about what they are, and creative, passionate people. So, although sometimes slightly over the top, I greatly enjoy the community she's building, and it is very interesting, the intersection of quilts and history and women's political and historical and all the things. So she basically has a live stream where she researches quilts and kind of helps, we help her when we watch her, and you can join in on the live chat. So I encourage you, it's a long show, but if you're slightly interested in history, and you're interested in how things kind of come together in quilts, I'd highly recommend it. The other thing I really love right now is the podcast Inappropriate Quilters. It's my favorite. I can't wait for it every week. These ladies are hilarious. They are really good at what they do. They are very funny. They talk about life and quilting, and if you want to know what my Wednesday stitching group is like, these two ladies, Leslie and Rochelle, are a nice snippet of what it feels like at stitching. If you need an idea of what a stitching group would feel like, that's what it is. A lot of laughter, a lot of problem solving, a lot of talk about quilting and what you want to do, and a lot of retreat pushing. These ladies like retreats. So look it up on the podcast near you. Podcast app of your choice. I think they're on all of them. And don't be afraid of Twitch. There's actually a lot of other streaming people that are not gaming, because Twitch was made for live streaming video game playing. It's a thing. People like it. But there's, I think, DJs and history buffs and all kinds of crafters that are also live streaming on Twitch. So I highly recommend it if you want to see what a new platform might be like. That's all, people. I am going to leave you for tonight so that I can stitch more on M-Bell. Let's be real. I need to end this so I can start stitching again. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And Ron, you're on. See you next week. Bye.